So today, let's talk about monochromatic painting. In this case, a black and white painting. I'm doing some interesting things that I want to share with you guys that help to give our monochromatic paintings just a little bit more life, things that we wouldn't necessarily expect. And so I'm going to rewind this and we'll do a 25-minute or so lesson. So let's go back to the very beginning of how this painting got to this stage. It's a very interesting thing. I used to think that monochromatic painting was literally just using black and white, but I learned that if we put down an imprimatura of a very warm color to play against those very cool colors of, say, an ivory black and a titanium white, that some of that warm undertones come through the layers. I wanted to share this process of how to make your monochromatic alla prima paintings glow just a little bit more, have a little bit more life. So what I do is I start with just using a little bit of Galkid gel, and I basically just tone the entire canvas with a transparent red oxide. Basically just scrubbing it into my panel. This is a gessoed panel, a white gessoed panel. And I don't sand it completely so it has a little bit of texture to it so that it can grab some of the pigment when I do these scrub-ins. And just taking a paper towel to kind of even out the imprimatura, basically the first underlay color. And what this helps us to do is we're using basically ivory black, titanium white, and also a little bit of raw umber. And what that helps us to do is to keep our colors from being too blue and too cold. Because as we know, black is really a blue. If you add white to it, it looks like a blue. It's not a color that is absent of color. Some people will tell you that they don't use black on their palette because of that, but I use black on my palette because I think of it as a dark blue. So I start in with my initial block in, just understanding where her head is sitting on the canvas, where her chin is, top of her head, using the cam method. This is the composing of the cam method. Just finding landmarks and where I can put her on the composition, put her head within the composition of the painting so she doesn't grow on us. And then I'm measuring out where the eyes are going to be, our anchor points. And right here you can see I'm using titanium white, my ivory black, and a little bit of raw umber. I won't go back into I won't be using the transparent red oxide anymore. Come in and scrub in where the eyes are, where the underplane of the nose is, just to get a basic drawing in. Where is she going to sit on here? So I spent a little bit of time organizing my shapes, thinking of the dark of the hair, and just kind of scrubbing it in. Now I'm coming in with my gray tones, putting some fresh paint on here, thinking of where the lights are. Now this is not quite a mid-tone, but kind of close to it with the orange, the transparent red oxide base. And just really shaping out the face very generically right now, very loosely. Coming in for the dark of where the eyes are. Her eyes are really deep set. This is a model that I met at the Scottsdale Artist School when I was teaching there. I'll be teaching there again in April of 2026. I have a little code on the screen that you can scan for all my upcoming workshops. It's updated so that will always be good if you're seeing this in 2025 or in 2030. You'll still be able to see the link will hopefully be updated as long as Google Docs is around. It's a living list. I just added stuff to it today. Coming in and refreshing my darks And again, at this stage, I'm kind of scrubbing in my darks, keeping them transparent. But the lights within the face are going to be a little bit thicker paint. This is a very traditional approach. Scrubbing in halftones. This is a scrubber brush from, I believe, Princeton. I'll have a link to the brush in the description below. Just where the hairline is, just scrub that in. Starting to get some of the background in. Knocking in the light of the background is great because that value will help to give us a little bit more information when it comes to how light and dark the face is. And so I like to set up that context of having the background in somewhat pretty early. This is maybe 30 minutes into the painting. Really, really early. Just blocking that in. Starting to go into the drawing a little bit more once I get the background established. Shaping out the eyes. I love her lids are really prominent within her face. And the underlid with the canthus. Really, really interesting. So this, I'm using a Treckle Protege 7500 brush. It's a really beautiful synthetic brush. And I always know what my latest brushes that I'm using are because I put the little blue tape on the back. Just to make sure I'm using the last brush that I used. So I always tend to go into the eyes first and then kind of filter my way down through the rest of the figure. Developing what's going on with her lips. Now I could totally leave the painting like this and it would be a Picasso. But we're going to take it further. Coming in here just to soften all the edges. This is a makeup brush I stole from my wife. It's very, very soft, has a lot of give, and so it's not going to over blend. Coming in and refreshing the lights. Coming in, refreshing the darks. Again, using that mixture of raw umber and ivory black. Leaving room for that highlight. You can see I'm almost doing a seesaw kind of sawed edge to how I'm going with the form of the hair, but leaving room for those highlight areas within the dark of the hair. And just going back and forth like that kind of leaves some of the warm to come through our monochromatic painting. And I know it's not technically a monochromatic painting. Starting to come in and think about the form now. And again, redrawing the eyes. I always start in the eyes and work my way around the face. My eyes are kind of my starting point for my thoughts. If I'm measuring something out, like say the length of the chin, I still start in the eyes to do all my landmarks going down across the form, across her face, to see if I have everything measured correctly. And I can see in this, because this is like recording your tennis game to see if you're hitting the ball the correct way on the racket and all this stuff. I can see that I feel like her nose is maybe a little pinched here. And it's something that I'm going to want to fix. And I know that I do fix it. I do catch it. It's easier to catch it when you see yourself outside of yourself to be able to see your mistakes. But it's always good to see them. So come in here, softening that out. Again, using that, kind of going into her eyes a little bit more. Now this is an ivory round brush. Actually, no, this is the Protégé, sorry. From Treacle. Treacle or Treacle. I'm not sure how to say it. If you know how to say it, please tell me in the comments. Bringing the light back into the painting. Where I'm seeing light areas, I'm putting notes for my future self. And the way I work around paintings, if you guys have watched any of my videos, is that I'm really going around and emotionally responding to areas that are either good or bad. I'm either having a positive response saying, oh, I love that area, but I really want to capture this turn, or I see how this is off and I want to fix that. There's not a real rationale to it. I bet if I cloned myself and did a painting from the model in the same exact spot, we would have totally different paintings, because I think that we would be going through different things and feeling different things at different times of the day, that some areas with different colors might respond to us better than others. And maybe one version of myself would pick up on one area versus the other. So it's really interesting. It really makes our handwriting, our voice, our emotions really caught up in what it is we're painting. You know, there's no way around it. However we're feeling that day is going to work into our paintings. It's pretty into the work that day. It's pretty interesting. I always say these panels, they collect our thoughts about the subject. So for me, it's like, okay, well, I put this in there. That's way too dark. That was a mistake. That's a question that I ask myself. And that answer, good or bad, is embedded into the painting, you know, through my time and through my thoughts. And so these panels absorb all of our time and our thoughts. It's pretty interesting. And so I feel like that gives our work an inherent value. Something worthwhile. We're kind of our thoughts are becoming this legacy for ourselves, hopefully. You know, paintings that will be well done as well as lasting. So I fixed that nostril a little bit. Could come up a little higher. Now, I don't love that I see the imprimatura through the gray yet. I'm going to go through and think about that form and how it's turning a little bit better on that nostril. Yep, on the full bulb of the nose and how that turns. Now, this is only a 3-hour painting. It's funny, I'm in the studio right now and she is staring back at me, saying that she wants to be finished. For the YouTube, I've been doing a lot of different alla prima, maybe 3-hour paintings to describe to you guys how I start different pieces. And I'm going to, I think in a month or so, I want to do a few more of these alla prima starts on the channel, but I think I'm going to go into finishing the alla primas. So we're going to have the same models and paintings, but I'm going to show you guys how I take it even further, maybe another 2 hours on each one to do a 5-hour painting. Now, when I was at the Art Students League in New York, it was a very regimented routine where I'd have a class in the morning, class in the afternoon, and a class in the late PM in the evening. And I remember it was 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and we'd have the same pose for 3 weeks, and it'd be 3 hours every day, well, Monday through Friday. And so that's about 15 hours a week on one pose times 3. So 45 hours on a pose. Now, it's hard to do that as a professional artist, to be able to have the models in the studio for that long. And so when I got out of school, learning how to take photos that were sensitive enough that they almost looked like they were life models. And then using what I learned from painting from life for my six years of training at the Art Students League plus college really helps to translate those photos versus copying the photos. which I think would be a great video. If you think that's a great video, leave me a comment in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you guys, what you guys think. Someone did tell me that I say you guys too much, so tell me what you think. Coming in here, again, just really redrawing all of these shapes and how they fit together. And developing the subtlety between the shapes as well. Also thinking about the form and how the brow ridge is turning. And I want my brushwork to follow that turn, the turn of the pores, or the Langer lines. I don't know if you guys have heard about Langer lines, but it's basically the grain of the skin. Another video idea. It's funny how one video idea leads to another. It's similar when I did a video on here about cross contour drawing. And that was a video of a model friend of mine, Raven. And I don't think it was that popular on here, but it's a very good lesson about making a no tan, which is very edgy. It's basically got your borders and contours, and then talking about how cross contouring and the direction that I'm turning and my brush is flowing around the different subjects. In that case, it was drawing. The way I draw and the way I paint are very similar. So using a little bit of a bigger brush just to unify some of the areas. Coming in here and adding a little bit more light. I feel like the model reference that I had in the studio was a little bit lighter than what I have on screen here. It's always hard to have the painting next to the reference because people will call out how I make mistakes, and it happens to all of us. But I'm also translating areas that I don't necessarily love. I don't love the reflected light under her chin or underneath her, the wing, the bottom part of her nose, the underplane of the nose, because it just, to me, it looks too light. And reflected light always gets played up to be too bright. So I'm going to basically kind of ignore it a little bit until the very end. But there's also other decisions that I make. So darkening up the background, coming into her neck a little bit, softening that out. I don't love how dark it is underneath there, so I'm going to soften that. Going to zoom ahead a little bit here. Again, thinking about that turn. And this is just a really, like a red nylon brush. I'm not sure the make of it. Maybe silver brush. Kind of redrawing what's going on here in the orbital cavity. Again, constantly redrawing. I'm really into this concept of Kaizen right now. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's this idea, it's a Japanese concept that small incremental changes along the way will make something better. I think they use it mostly in things like the automotive industry, different ways to increase production, but also quality. And so for me, I'm always thinking that I'm improving my drawing. I'm improving my painting as I'm going. If I'm working on one eye, I go back and forth between the eyes so that they're more unified. I'm not just going to render one aspect of the painting and then move on to another aspect. I want to bring the painting all together all at once. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. Start again, always bringing in light into the painting and softening out edges. So again, I'm using that titanium white, and we still have aspects of that imprimatura coming through the painting to add just a little bit of life to it. There's that warm undertones because of the transparency of paint that keeps our alla prima, our monochromatic alla prima, from being really cold. And this is one of those brushes that I got off Amazon. I will have a link in the description as well. Just softening out edges. Pulling in some more of the darks, thinking about the hair. This is also a pretty cheapy brush. That's a flat, where I'm using that side almost as a chisel to think about how the hair is just kind of flowing off that edge. And these notes for the hair are probably not going to last. But again, they're notes for my future self. So let's move further into the painting, starting to get a little bit of her chest. And we're going to go in so you guys can see a little bit more of the detail here. So coming in with, again, just a really cheapy brush, just to soften some of these edges. Where the hairline meets, there's a little bit of a shadow that I want to soften out. Hairlines usually aren't very hard edged. They're a lot softer when they meet the scalp. Sometimes you do have hair that will, it usually casts a shadow so it softens itself if it's raised above the forehead. So we want to think about that. It's not just a hard edge. Coming in and bringing more light onto the form. And using that protege brush to kind of scrub in and working the drawing still. It's going on with those beautiful lights on the lips. This edge, the shadow under the nose needs to definitely be softened. And there's a very slight cast shadow. But it turns on that cheek in a very beautiful way. You can see I'm adding some more warm into the paint from that raw umber. And this is that nylon brush. I'm going to find out the brand. I believe it's Silver Brush Company, and I'll have a link, if there is a link to be had, in the description. See some shadow underneath there. Going to knock that in, and going back into the eyes. Going to zoom ahead here. We've been about 20 minutes into the lesson or so. You can see actually from here, and I'm going to jump ahead to here, how much we've been softening those edges in the eyes. And so this is going to be a great jumping off point to really start to develop the painting further. Really think about the direction of my strokes a little bit better, rather than just kind of blasting in areas that I think need attention. I can take my time. It's really funny. I think that painting for me starts fast and then finishes very, very slowly, to the point of that mathematical equation that every day I feel like I'm halfway to the finish, in which I will, if I'm always halfway to the finish, I'll never get to the finish because I'm always just halfway there. Sometimes that's how I feel about art. I keep seeing things within the painting. As I'm painting it, I'm understanding the painting better, and so it takes me longer to finish because I want to put all that knowledge that I'm learning into that painting, even into a demonstration for YouTube. I believe that these paintings will be fun, and they're all 11 by 14, that I might even do like a studio sale of them, or maybe a gallery exhibition. Be kind of fun. Let's jump ahead here, softening out these edges. Pulling in some of the lights now. Again, thinking about that brow ridge. And you can see I have a kind of a hatchy stroke when I put things down. And having a base of context, I start to see where relationships are better as we go. So again, using that concept of Kaizen, that it's constantly improving on itself. And using kind of that swimmy stroke that really describes form. Coming across the edges. And you can see that you don't see all that much of the orange coming through. I might make an artistic choice to leave some come through my monochromatic painting, but you can see that it kind of has a warm quality to it. Even though we're putting these very cold colors on, the greenish earth of the raw umber, as well as the coldness of the blue-black, and titanium white is also a cold color. So I don't think I'd be against using, like maybe a flake white when I finish this. That might add a warm layer of white on top of this painting as well. Might be an idea as well to kind of warm up our monochromatic paintings. Now I say monochromatic, for me, black and white. You can do monochromatic, just means one chroma, essentially, which this is kind of a lack of chroma, if you really think about it. Thanks so much for watching. If you got something out of this video, hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps this channel to keep growing. I also want to give a huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel over on Patreon and here on YouTube. Your comments, shares, and encouragement really keep this community going and growing. If you want to dive deeper with full-length lessons and behind-the-scenes stuff from my studio, check out the Patreon community with the link in the description. It's been amazing to connect with so many artists over there. And if you're interested in learning to draw and paint with me in person, I have an ongoing list of upcoming in-person workshops. Just scan the QR code you see on the screen for all the details. I'm now streaming a live drawing session every Wednesday morning where we'll study history, composition, and techniques behind some of my favorite works from art history. It all starts at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, right here on YouTube. So grab some coffee, bring your sketchbook, and come hang out with me. It's a fun, low-pressure way to draw together and dive deep into some really great art in real time. Thanks again for being part of this journey with me. Paint well, and I'll see you in the next video. Or even better, I'll see you guys live on Wednesday morning. Take care.